Hey everyone, we're going to give folks just another minute to hop on. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, and thank you for joining our Getting Started with Action Builder meeting here, training here. So quick introduction, although you've probably heard it before. So I'm Martha Grant, the Director of Cooperative Development here at Action Network Action Builder. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat as we go through the walkthrough today on how to get started in Action Builder. The chat and Q&A are going to be the way to do questions today. So please go ahead and drop any questions there. The big thing to know about Action Builder, we started development in 2017 using our cooperative development model. We're a never-for-profit organization and we build tools collaboratively. My role as the Director of Cooperative Development is leading the group, facilitating the group that determines what we build, when, and how for Action Builder. So to get started, I want to talk a little bit about why we built Action Builder. We built Action Builder to be a tool set for organizers. And we're going to talk a little bit about this more in our Mobilize to Organize session later today. But the key thing is that we are doing building a piece of technology just for how you can facilitate one-on-one conversations, grow leaders on the ground, and help them get off to the races. So I'm going to actually start with a quick 10-minute overview of Action Builder itself to give you a really fast idea of how this technology could be useful for you in the field. So I'm just going to show you a demo campaign, walk you through a bunch of the key features, spend about 10 minutes on that, and then we'll go from there. One quick note, I'm getting some notes in the chat that we had an issue with Zoom and our other meeting is going to be happening in a different Zoom session than it previously was. Oops. Here we go. So if you know anybody from your team who wanted to join the other session, the link to join that is going in the chat now. And if you want to share that, that would be great. And that session is covering uploads. So today we are going to dig into getting started on Action Builder. I'm going to share my screen here. And this is a demo campaign in Action Builder. So if you haven't seen Action Builder before, this is it. One thing that we knew right off the bat is that we wanted to make the tool approachable, easy to use, especially targeting. This tool should be very useful, very easy to use for folks who hate technology or are not comfortable with technology. Everything that I'm going to show you today is also easily doable on your mobile device. So this is roughly what the tool set looks like on your phone. So easy to use is 100% what we're going for. If you go here to the chart view list view page, you can think about this as just viewing the list of people that you're organizing. You can click to search that list up here in the top, and this lets you just quickly search any entities here. Yeah, got a great question in the chat. I think we're going to get more of these. The link for the other meeting isn't working. I just dropped it in the chat again. Feel free to head over to that meeting. We hadn't run 2 webinars concurrently in our Zoom account. So challenging technology issues. I'm glad that this is the first challenge that we've had in terms of this 2-day conference. And feel free again to share that link with other folks who want to head over to that uploads meeting. So hopping back here to Action Builder, if we click on a person's profile, we can hop into their profile here. The way we would love Action Builder to be used is for it to be, as one of the panelists said yesterday, talking about Action Builder, unremarkable, especially when it comes to the mobile use. We're getting some folks saying that they're having trouble hopping into Michael's webinar. I just dropped the link into the chat. Hopefully that new link should work for you if you're having trouble hopping into the Uploads webinar. Go for that there, and I'm just going to keep dropping that link into the chat over the course of this conversation. So here we've got Victor's profile. We want to make it so that you have a conversation with somebody, you type in their name on their phone, just like I typed in Victor's name up here, and then you go to their profile. You can just add any emails, addresses, phones as you want. You can add as many emails, addresses, phone numbers as you'd like. You can add a new assessment, and we'll talk more about assessments in a couple minutes. The assessment is just where they are in terms of their support or their interactions with your organization. You can add info. So this, again, is completely customizable. We're going to covering that shortly. And then you can add notes here. Fun little detail point on the profile. If you mark an email address or phone number as confirmed using this menu on the right, it'll always be marked as the best email address and phone number in the system until you unmark it as confirmed or mark it as bad. And if you tried to add a bad email or a bad phone number or a bad address back into the system, say through an upload process, it would not actually be added back as good on a person's profile unless you, an organizer in the field, actually marked it as good here. Heading back here to the wall chart, this is, again, your list. You've got click to email, click to call, just really wanting to facilitate those one-on-one interactions that are so core to organizing. If I hop over here to the chart view, you can group results here. So you can group by different fields, locations. It's completely customizable. This was one of the features in the tool that was highlighted yesterday as just like a great way to see where your campaign is at, where you're strong, where you're weak. I'll group by location here so that you can get a sense of how this works. But you just choose, like, I want to group by location, specifically state, and then it groups everybody by state with that color-coded assessment scale front and center. And this is something we're going to talk about when it comes to how you think about setting up assessments in the tool. The activity stream will be how your organizers and how you will be able to see all the information that's added to the campaign, especially helpful for debriefs. So you could search by a particular user here in the search bar to see all of the information that has been added by that user. You can choose a date range, actually bring this up to talk through in your debriefs. Yesterday in one of the panels as well, they talked about how, given that they were organizing remotely, being able to actually share on a Zoom screen the chart view for the campaign, broken out by different departments, do that work over Zoom, actually do group debriefs via Zoom using the activity stream was really helpful. And one of the volunteer organizers, member organizers that was on yesterday's call with OPIU talking about the Augsburg University campaign, he mentioned how, like, in the future during debriefs and during in-person organizing meetings, it would be super helpful to have a projector up with Action Builder. And I loved that because that was part of the initial vision of Action Builder as well, is that we want that collaborative use of Action Builder instead of everybody on their laptops, you know, showing that information at the front of the room being really helpful. A couple features I'm just going to touch on. You have the ability to create tasks. So tasks are, they could be a phone bag task. They could be like this, a one-on-one task. You could do lit drop tasks. You have names of people that are assigned to you as part of a task. So you can assign specific people to specific organizers, specific volunteers to do outreach to. You can get driving routes if you're doing driving. You click on that person's profile, you add the information that you've decided is important to gather as part of that one-on-one, and then you can just click next target after you've had that phone call, take those notes, add that information, click next target. During pandemic times, what we've been hearing a lot is that folks will have a profile up on their screen, pull up that same task on their phone, make the calls from their phone, just using this click to call functionality, but then take their notes while they're on the call right here in the profile. Then click next target on both their phone and on their laptop to get the next target and be able to make those calls or emails. This session is really going to be to cover how you can get set up on Action Builder as an admin. So if you're starting all from scratch. So I'm going to transition to that in a second, but I want to pause, see if there's any questions from you all about the functionality of Action Builder before we hop over for that. So got a question about what is the website for Action Network? I'm not able to pull it up. So Action Network is our sister tool set. It's our mobilization advocacy tool. If I log out of my Action Network account here, actionnetwork.org is where you can go to log in to Action Network. And you can go to, so if I go to actionnetwork.org, we've got login or sign up here. Action Builder, this is actually like a good piece for us to cover. Each organization who uses Action Builder gets their own subdomain. So for Action Network, you just go to actionnetwork.org and click login. For Action Builder, here we go to abdemo.actionbuilder.org here. And it says Action Builder demo up here at the top. So your organization is going to have its own unique, we call it a URL, with a subdomain. That's AB demo is a subdomain here. And so we actually create custom organizations for every organization that comes on Action Builder, and each has their own subdomain. Another question about how this looks on mobile, great question. So this is what the task view looks like on mobile. So you see the name of the task, and then you can add these interests that a person has here. So like they're interested in volunteering. You can say that they're interested in volunteering today. Click save. You can add your notes here, add your addresses here, and there you go. Click next target. And then we're brought back to our next target. If we click go back here, it'll take us to the list of folks that we're organizing here. You can search this list, or you can just click on the next person that you want to talk to. If you click this expand button, then you see all of that top line information with the click to call, click to text right here on expand. Awesome. So next I'm going to show you the setup process for Action Builder. So we're going to start with an organization that I just created to be able to walk through with you this whole setup process. So doing that here. So the setting up the assessment scale is the very first thing you do when you've got your own new Action Builder account. So right here at the top, you can see that I've named this account API Demo, and it says Action Builder and Action Network integration right up here at the top. So for your organization, it'll say your organization's name right here at the top of the screen, and it'll be whatever you decided should go here right before actionbuilder.org. When your folks go into login for the first time, they're going to get a link that says click this link to set up your Action Builder account. And they click that link, it'll take them to your subdomain. So our recommendation is that when people click that link to go to your organization, that they bookmark it so that they can remember it for the future. But it'll also be in that initial email, the name of the organization. So a couple things to think about when you're setting up your assessment scale. What sort of campaign are you running? Here, we'll click on Setup Assessment so you can see it. What scales your users currently use and why? What do you want to make as standard? And another great question to think about is what will most help your organizers gauge at a glance where the campaign is at? What will help you gauge where the campaign is at a glance as well? So I'm actually going to pull up that demo account that we were in just now to show you a couple of the key places that assessments are used. So that assessment color coding is right here to the left of the person's name. You could think of that assessment, that color coding, as a trigger of what conversation do I need to have next with this person? What's the type of conversation I need to have with that person next? So that color coded assessment can be a great quick visual way to identify that. The other quick visual way it can be used here is the chart view. So again, this is something that was demonstrated yesterday, but it's that quick visual of, are we winning? Are we losing? Are we getting the engagement? Where and how we need to get the engagement? Because you can group on different fields. This could be worksite information or issues people care about. You can group by geography. It can give you that sense of, am I strong everywhere? Am I weak anywhere? Do I need to invest more resources somewhere? So that color-coded visual can be really key for that. You can always change your labels and you can change your color coding. So whatever you set to start here, you can always change it. But once you click Save Changes here and create your first campaign, the numeric scale is locked. So if you choose for this to be a 1 through 4 scale, click Save Changes. We'll add in some leaders here, potential leader, do supporter, defense, anti, and then we'll do anti-leader here. So I can choose the color coding, whatever I want it to be. And once I choose that color coding and the labels, it's totally fine. I can always go and change that. But see that lock symbol right here? I can no longer remove a level here. I can add a level, but I can't remove one. And once I create a new campaign, that add level button disappears, and then these assessments are locked for the entire organization, not just for the campaign. Get some questions in the Q&A. Can each campaign have a different assessment level? Great question, and the answer is no. You're setting your assessment level for the whole organization. You can always create additional organizations. Creating new organizations doesn't add any cost, except for the fact that you're going to have some users in that organization, but presumably those users would have just been in your main organization anyway, so you're probably not adding any cost there. But we've generally found that people have been okay with having that one assessment scale. The reason we did that one assessment scale to start is we decided that it wasn't a good investment of our time. The development table decided it wasn't a good investment of our time to spend a bunch of time adding the customization at the campaign level. And then also organizing directors really like the idea of having one standard assessment level for their organization that all of their organizers would then be using. It allows for that cross-campaign analysis. It allows for some standardization within the organization that people were actually pretty excited about. And great, I'm glad that question got answered. Another great question about cutting turf in Action Builder or Action Network. Great question. We will actually cover this potentially maybe a little bit more in Mobilize to Organize, a later training today, but I think it's also worth giving a quick glimpse of now. So I mentioned the tasks, which are the ability to assign specific work to specific people. If I go here to manage tasks, I just want to give you a quick glimpse of a couple different ways that you can do those tasks assignments. This is also actually pretty relevant to those assessment scales. So if I click on Edit Turf, I can click on Query and I can choose, like I want my 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, or my 1s, 2s, 3s, and unassessed to be part of this turf. And then it'll create a turf with all of those people in it. Alternatively, I can click on the map view, and this is that turf cutting feature, and I can click draw, And then, I could zoom in if I wanted to get a closer turf. Usually your turfs will not be this big, but you can use the zoom in button to actually zoom in on these folks. And then I'll click apply, and then those records will be selected through that cutting turf feature. The third way to add people to a task is clicking this add people button, and this will add people one by one to a task. So if you want a new worker leader to be organizing people in their workplace, you can add the 5 people that they said that they would talk to right here, assign this task to them, then they go out and they can have those conversations. Really great questions. Again, too, when somebody goes to complete those tasks, that assessment is front and center. So training people on your assessment scale, whatever you decide it to be, can be really critical in terms of being able to keep tabs on where the campaign is at, but also helping them have better conversations in the field by using that quick visual to help them know what type of conversation should be happening. One note of caution here, I've seen lots of cases where folks will say, well, we normally use like a 1 through 4 scale, but then we have like a 3+ that we use on most campaigns. 1 through 4 scale with the 3+ is a 5-point scale in Action Builder. And I would say a lot of, in most campaigns, the 5-point scale is what we're seeing people use. The other type of campaign, so I've kind of demoed this sort of like leader to people who are opposed to whatever your issue area is type of campaign. This is the sort of scale you might use in an electoral context. It's the type of scale you might use in a labor organizing context as well. Alternatively, something that, especially if you're coming over from Action Network or are you interested in using Action Builder to sort of take your organizing to the next level, but are moving your information from an Action Network list, a list of supporters, to Action Builder, you may want to change this up to something more of like an engagement scale. So you'd still have like leader, but then you might have potential leader. Then 3 might be your supporters, 4 might be activist or inactive supporters, and then 5 might be inactive. So folks who are not actually any longer really active in your organization. So you can play around with this, whatever you come up with, we'd be excited to hear about it. I would also say that even though we do actually let you have a 20-point assessment scale in Action Builder, definitely under 10 recommended, and I would say 7, I think, is about the most that could actually be used effectively. So that is the very first thing you're going to do when you get set up on Action Builder. The next thing is to just think a little bit about these features that we call entity and connection types. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. By default, you have people entities in Action Builder. So people will be the folks that you add to the campaign. So when you're in a campaign and you click Add New, and I'll hop back to our demo instance here, you see this new entity button here. You'll also see it if I go back to the wall chart. We can click Add New here to add a new person. First name, last name. You customize what information can be part of a person's record here. Again, this is for the organization level. So you could say like address, date of birth, email, phone number. Maybe you want to get rid of date of birth. This just hides it from view. It doesn't delete any data you've already added to the system. Maybe you want to hide address because it's a predominantly email and phone campaign. You click those Save Changes. That changes what information people will add when they click that Add New button. But you can also add new entity types here. So hopping back to our demo campaign, I've actually set this up so you could add organizations to the system. So you could just have a full name for all of the organizations that you're a part of, that a person's a part of, that you're organizing. You can do this all sorts of robust sort of power mapping, structure mapping with Action Builder using this feature. And from this page, you're just adding new entity types that then are available for you to turn on in your campaign. You need to have at least one entity type in a campaign so that you can add information, have records in that wall chart, but they don't necessarily need to be people in this campaign. So we could do community organizations, we'll add this plural label. and a singular label. So this just lets us make sure that everywhere we have a plural instance of something or a singular instance of something, it displays it correctly. We'll make this single full name, and we'll say that this community group doesn't have a date of birth, and it doesn't have an email account, but it has an address and a phone number. So I've created this entity type now in the system. So now we could turn on community organizations in a particular campaign. Connection types are similar, where you can add any connections you want in the system. So a person-to-person connection would just be a relationship between two people. So we're going to create that connection type. I'm going to add a new connection type between a person and a community organization here. And now I have the option in a campaign to track the relationships between two people, the relationships between a person and a community organization. And we're going to actually also track the relationships between two community organizations here. So these are just options that are then available in your campaign, but you can see, get a sense here of just how flexible the setup process is for this tool. But something we wanted to do when we were thinking about the way we built the tool, the sort of thought process around this tool, is that it is so paramount to us that organizers have a good experience, that your volunteers have a good experience. So you can do as much adding of these connection types and entity types and all of this as you want as an admin, and it won't affect your folks in the field until you go into a campaign and you actually turn on these features for them. We have generally found that it's best when you're first getting started with Action Builder to start simple. So maybe just start with that people entity type, that people to people connection, maybe, right? And then as you start to get used to the tool, your team starts to really feel comfortable with the tool, adding these additional features, starting to do that more robust power mapping in your community can be a much more approachable way to on-ramp your organization to using Action Builder, rather than starting with all of this information in all of your campaigns all the time. But of course, up to you. Now I'm going to head to this info tab, and this is really the heart of the tool. This is where I create what we call fields and responses that then can be associated with campaigns, and then you can start applying this information to people. So hopping back to our demo campaign here, when I say fields and responses, I mean this info section here. And this demo campaign has way more fields and responses than I would recommend that you have in your general campaigns. But we have these section headers like activism, and then we have these fields, events, interests with these different field types, this other group of actions. We have a shift type field here, just lots of information. And all of this information is customizable. So we're going to walk through how you create these section headers, create these fields, create these responses. But then at the campaign level, if I go here to info, click edit info, I can actually just click these boxes to turn off these different fields in the campaign. It doesn't delete data, it just hides it from view. Fields and responses, well created at the organization level, so you create the possibility to turn them on in a campaign at the organization level. At the campaign level, that is where the information is actually associated with a person record or an entity record. So if I mark somebody as attending a particular event in one campaign, and I wouldn't see that they attended that event in a different campaign where that person might be present. I know that's a little bit of a lot, but feel free to drop any questions in the chat. This is also something we'd love to dive in with any of you in a one-on-one conversation. And I'll drop a link into the chat at the end of this where you can set up some one-on-one time. You can also set up a one-on-one onboarding. If you go to the actionbuilder.org join us tab, if you actually sign up to get started, we have like a 3-step onboarding process that we love to do with everybody to get them off to their races. So hopping back to this demo campaign, as you can see to start, there's nothing here in this info page, but I'm going to go ahead and add a section called activism. Click save. I'm going to add a field, action participation. This is one of the sort of standard ones that we've seen, and I'm going to make it a date type field. So as you can see, we actually have 6 different field types with different characteristics. So this is something that is, you know, relatively unique to us in terms of the way we've implemented it. So the standard fields, that just means it's like a drop down. So you can just pick that this person attended the drive-by canvas on 7/30/2021. The numeric field means that you can associate a particular number with a particular response on a person's profile. So for instance, you might do like salary, and then you'd say like the responses might be annual, monthly, biweekly, and you'd be able to put the exact amount that somebody makes on a biweekly basis and on an annual basis in their profile. The date would be like the date somebody participated in an event. So date type fields for actual participation can make a lot of sense. You could say like attended a membership meeting and then have the date that this person has attended the membership meeting. And you can have a list of all of the membership meetings that person has attended with all of those dates in their profile. This is a great way to keep track of public support. It's a great way to keep track of all of the volunteerism using this date type field. Then we have an address type field. So the address would be associating a particular address with a particular response. So you could have places of worship as a field. And you would make it an address type field. And then when you go and add a place of worship, you could add the address. And then you could click on that address from a person's profile to get driving directions to that place of worship. Note type fields are kind of my favorite. So if you have an issues field, you might make that a note type field, and then you'd be able to add a note about that issue. So somebody says that they care a lot about climate. You could actually type why they care about climate change in the note associated with climate. That means that in the activity stream, you could filter to everybody with the climate response. And then see all of the notes, all of the stories about why people care about climate change as being their top issue in the activity stream. Fantastic way if you're looking to do earned media, figure out some interviews with the media, to find those compelling stories really, really quickly, using a combination of these responses, our filters, and then that activity stream to actually see the note live. So super excited about that. And then a shift type. So this lets you say when somebody is going to be in a particular place. So if you choose shift type, you could have responses like the particular work area somebody works in. Some people could do this as like place of worship for like when are they at their place of worship. And then you could say they are there Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, they are there Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1. Sometimes folks will do this as like a room number if they're doing campus organizing. So lots of fun potentials here with fields and responses. I would say this setup of fields and responses is a place where a lot of people can feel really overwhelmed really quickly. I would highly encourage you to just start small. So like action participation, date type field, we'll let anybody add new responses here as new actions that they want to track. We'll make it multi-select. That just means that they can choose as many different responses as they want, like all the different actions somebody attended. And we're going to click Save Changes. And then we can start adding responses by making this unlocked, we call it, or open to anybody adding new responses. Any activists and organizers can add new responses in the field. You just undo that toggle to lock it so that your data will actually be standardized. But I'll just do like phone bank, and I'll do Canvas here. I would say a couple of things to keep in mind when you're setting up fields and responses. First off, definitely start small, start with the bare minimum of what you want your organizers to track, what you want to hold them accountable to, what you want visible in the activity stream for those debrief conversations, what you want to be able to search on, like those issues, be able to see all those notes about the stories that somebody's willing to tell. But then the other piece I would say is that some great feedback we got from organizers early on is a desire for more responses, more information in those drop downs that are searchable, and fewer fields. And that will also make a person's profile feel less cluttered. So having like a broad action participation instead of having public support, events, trainings as separate fields, instead of having it all in action participation or under activism, much easier to look at in a person's profile. Now, overview of info administration, lots more to cover here. Feel free to drop questions in the chat or the Q&A. I'm now going to hop over to our campaigns. We don't have any active campaigns here in the system yet, but now we are ready to create one. So I'm just going to create a demo campaign here. And we'll walk through campaign customization now. So here in campaign customization, we've got our name. This is always editable, so you can always change the name. We've got our target number. This is just like a quick shorthand for you to be able to quickly see, am I on track to have the amount of participation that I want to have? So I'm going to go ahead and say we want 200 people here in this campaign. You can choose a support user. So right now it's me, but you could choose somebody else to be the point of contact for your campaign. This is who, if you are using the Action Builder Action Network integration, information that flows through that integration from Action Network to Action Builder will be, it'll say it's by the support user. So if you're using the integration heavily, you might want to create like an API user for that. And that could just be like you just change the name in your own user profile to API user. The other place that this shows up is if an organizer or an activist clicks this need help button, they will see the support contacts information up here. So we wanted especially to make this easy for somebody in the tool who's a volunteer on the ground to click that need help button and get relevant contact information for them. The vast majority of questions a volunteer is going to have or an organizer is going to have are going to be about like, I need to add this information. Where do I add that? I don't see this response. Can we get that response added? That's all. Those are all pieces that a lead can help them with, and that our support team will just be slower in helping them with because we're not familiar with all of the great, cool customizations that you've done to make your flexible campaign structure work. Leads and admins will see the contact information for our support team. So we're online Monday through Friday. Too frequently, we're also like ducking in and checking tickets in the evenings and weekends. And then you can click visit the help center here as well to look through our documentation, get all those help materials that we have. We've got help center videos too. So if you have a question, that is a great place to start as well. You can set your default country. Right now, we just have the US and Canada. And then this is where you can turn on different entity types and connection types in your campaign. So I'm going to keep this simple and just choose people and people-to-people connection types here. If I wanted to track people in community organizations, but I did not want my organizers to be overwhelmed by seeing a list of all of the people in community organizations in one place, I could choose people as the primary entity type here. And that just means that we'd automatically apply a filter every time somebody logs in to filter this page, this wall chart page to people. And you can see that I've actually turned on that primary entity type people here in this demo campaign. So it's automatically filtered to people here. And when I click add new, it automatically defaults to adding a person here as well. So that can be like a helpful way to make things more approachable for organizers, but still having that robust functionality of being able to add community groups here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. And now I'm going to go here to the Info tab. And I can add that action participation field here. And until I turn it on in the campaign, having the option to add the information about the Canvas's phone bank somebody has attended is not available in this campaign. I actually need to turn on fields and responses in this campaign in order to do that. Don't need to click the save button here, that's all added. And you can customize these fields and responses for different connections, different entity types. So all of that is customizable. Here in top lines, I can choose information to be visible in that expand. So if I go back here to my demo campaign and click this expand button, this information over here in the top lines, that is customizable. So I can choose to have email address here, have phone number here. I can choose different fields to be here. So like it'll display the action somebody has participated in right at the top of their profile. This can be really helpful for membership status, any other information that you need to or want to have at a glance. Users, it'll show me all the users who have access to this campaign, and I can create new users, and then I can also turn on or off the integrations here. Lots of customization, lots to cover. When you first log into a new campaign that doesn't have anybody in it, you can add your first record. So I'm going to add Janetta here. And I'm going to just click create person, and that'll take me to Janetta's profile, and I can add emails, add phone numbers, add any information to the connections tab now that I have that, add any notes here. And then finally, I'll just hit refresh to update the assessment scale here. So then we see the assessments here, and I can say that Janetta is an activist. Go to the activity stream and we can see this information. Martha Grant added Janetta Smith to the campaign, change the assessment scale. All of that will be live. So if you have folks using the tool out in the field, you can just click this refresh button to refresh that information. If you have fewer than 100 people and more than 5 organizers or even just 2 organizers, adding information manually, especially if you're migrating from Google Sheets, can be a faster and more accurate way to go rather than spending a ton of time trying to clean up the Google sheets that you're migrating from. If you've got more than like 20 people, 30 people to add per person, if you want to make sure that your organizers really have a chance to be bought in and are not starting from scratch, investing the time in really cleaning up your Excel spreadsheets, your Access databases, your Google Sheets before you migrate can be really important then to get folks off to the races. Let's go back down here to tasks. Another way to get organizers on board with using the tool faster is to create a new task. So instead of sort of mucking around with the wall chart, maybe feeling overwhelmed by all the different options, creating a task can be a great way to help folks input their initial data or just start tracking like attendance at events. So we'll do like data input here. 7/30/2021 is the due date. We'll create that task. We'll say that like when you're adding a new person, the main things are we should add a new assessment, we should add a phone number, and we should add an email address. And then if you wanted to, you could add those fields. So like we'll add action participation here. I'm going to go ahead and put assessment down at the bottom. Maybe we'll add notes as well. Really recommend people use notes robustly in the system. I'm going to just go ahead and add all of the people in the campaign, and then I'm going to create a turf, and I'm going to assign that turf. Oops, I need to go here to customize. As an admin user, you're not automatically part of the campaign, so I'm going to add myself here. Go to manage tasks and create that turf, and I'm going to just assign myself this blank turf here. And I'll show you what that looks like. We have a question in the chat. So your action participation here means what events people are attending. So action participation, in the way I'm thinking about it in this campaign context, is actually what training somebody has attended. Do they wear a button? Are they demonstrating public support? Are they attending a particular event like a phone bank or Canvas? You can add all of these responses here, and I'll actually show you quickly what that means here in data input. So this is a canvassing assignment. If I click here, add new entity, and I'm just going to add myself here and create a person. Instead of taking me to their full profile, it takes me to the profile I just created by adding those to-dos to the task. And if I click on action participation here, I have the option to create a new response. So I could say that I wore a button, and I can say the date that I wore the button here. And we could say that I signed a card, so we could create a new response, signed a card. So this action participation is like a super broad, whatever I want it to be, date field. And having fewer fields, so instead of having like events, public support, card sign, like all as separate fields in the system, what we've heard from organizers is that they prefer having something that's broader, something like actions or action participation or activism, where all of those different responses fit under one field. And the real reason for that is that it's quicker to scan in a profile, and there's less dead space on a profile too. So if I go to a person's profile, we'll click into Janetta's profile here in the demo account, you can see that we have all of these blank responses that take up space. But if I had just like one response, like if best pets was a field, and then I have like the pets I like and the pet events I've attended under that field, it might make more sense. And then how much does pet care cost for each month? Like that's a number, a numeric response that you could keep track of separately. So then you can add a note, you can update the assessment here, and then you can just move on to go back, click the go back button and click the new entity button to add the next person, and it'll take you to that shortcut page. This can also be a great way to onboard volunteers to using the tool, as assigning them for a particular task, ideally with like a group of people already assigned to them, already added in the system. So then, hey, they're going to talk to these 3 to 5 people, all good. So let's see, other pieces to cover here. I do want to say that like a couple other tips in terms of rollout, identify champions within your organization who like would be interested in adopting new technology, maybe in an initial sort of quick demo of Action Builder that we're happy to do. They get really excited about it. Help working with them to test the tool out, develop the rollout process within your organization, work with you, work with us to develop custom training materials for organization, and give you a really helpful way to do an effective rollout. When you actually have people in your organization who can show others, this is how this is saving me time, this is how this is valuable, this is why this is valuable, that can be just so much more effective in terms of getting organizational buy-in. So highly recommend that. And then the other piece is that unless somebody is actually using the tool, it can be really hard to see its value. So I would highly recommend that if you are interested in coming on board Action Builder, that you mandate usage at least to start, and use this activity stream feature to keep in touch with folks about like, hey, I noticed you hadn't used Action Builder today. Can you tell me a little bit more about like what's going on? And doing those real daily check-ins or like every other day check-ins for the first 2 weeks, so that folks actually take that leap of starting to get used to this new tool. It is easy to use. We have gotten great feedback about how approachable it is. But you know, there's always those little quirks. This search bar, people will frequently not see it. So just, you know, making sure that you're talking to them about what their questions are, asking them why they're not using it in that approachable way so that they feel comfortable saying like, I tried to search for somebody, but I couldn't find the search bar. And we are actually looking to change up the design to make that more prominent as well. This is about it in terms of the overview for getting started. I'm going to drop a getting started guide that covers a lot of what I've showed you today into the chat. And then definitely I would also appreciate any questions. Would love to dig in further on any features that you want to hear. Got a couple Q&A in the chat. Excellent. Is it possible to add via CSV files? Yes. You mentioned cleaning up Excel or Google Doc files, but so I'm guessing yes. If so, can you demo that? Yeah, so we are actually going to have a whole section on uploads simultaneously to this. And then there was that little snafu with the Zoom links. Adding uploads is pretty straightforward. You click this new upload button. And you do actually do uploads in 2 stages in Action Builder. So you're going to want your first column or one of your first columns to be a custom ID. You browse for a file, drop that CSV onto this box, and then you're uploading your entities first. So this would be like uploading your people or your community organizations, whatever entities you have turned on. You'll go through that upload step. It's just like a couple step process. And then you'll do a similar process to upload all of the information fields associated with those records. So you'll just drag and drop that same CSV, like job titles or what issues people care about, any of that information, drag and drop it here. You don't have time to go through that in a robust way right now with only a couple minutes to go. But it's pretty simple, straightforward, easy to do, and we'll drop some help documentation into the chat as well. When we take an action like a house call, are there a list of things that show up as activity taken and kept with date and time? So if I hop over to a person's profile, you can see 3 months ago here. And if I hover over 3 months ago, it'll actually have the exact date and time that this information was applied to the person's record. And attended chapter meeting here, we have the date associated with the fact that they attended that chapter meeting. And when you're doing a house call, you customize all of the information that is visible as part of that house call task. So those are what we call the to-dos. So all of that is kept track of here. You can see like a very basic reporting functionality here. We're actually going to do a whole reporting section later today. But this is where you can just keep track of like what progress has been done here, sort of in an at-a-glance way of like progress done through TURF. But the activity stream is the way to actually see the actual time information was applied, who applied it. So I would say activity stream would be the place I would go to if folks are doing house calls to keep track of all of that. Great question. Awesome. Really good questions. Love this. Let's see. I dropped the getting started guide into the chat. A couple other notes. So we do a regular demo. So if you go to actionbuilder.org, I'm going to drop that link in the chat as well. You can fill out your information here to sign up for our weekly demos and get information about our Tuesday demos. If you click this join us, you can just go ahead and get started. If you click this join team action builder, it'll take you to our billing page. And then you can just get started for $50 per user per month. If you go through this checkout process, you're going to get an email with information about setup. Like I mentioned before, we recommend a 3-step setup process. So in that email that you get after you sign up, you get a link to set up an initial onboarding call via a Calendly link with our support team. And in that call, we'll actually work with you to set up your assessments, set up your initial fields and responses. Then we recommend setting up an hour-long follow-up call if you are looking to migrate from Google Sheets, some Excel sheets, an Access database, some other system to Action Builder. And in that hour-long follow-up, if you have your files ready, and if you want us to, we'll actually work with you to do the initial upload so that you're not starting from scratch, so that you're starting with your data in the system. And then the optional third part of our onboarding process will be actually like helping you do the rollout to your team. So doing an initial demo with your organizers and activists, answering any questions they have about the tool, that sort of thing. I also, we're always available via support@actionbuilder.org. I always love to do a quick check-in about 2 weeks after you've gotten going to see just how it's going. Answer any additional questions that have come up from your organizers or activists. Any additional thoughts, questions, concerns you have about the rollout process. We are very much here to serve you all and help you all be effective. Any other questions, folks? Sweet. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. I believe I will have a new link for you for our next call. So let's see. Awesome. So we are going to go ahead and move forward. We think we've corrected the issue with the Zoom links that was experienced before. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the existing Zoom links into the chat so we can all join the next sessions. 1 second while I get those pulled up, but feel free to drop any additional questions in the chat as well, and I will be excited to answer them. Here we go. Here are the links. Okay. I have accidentally dropped the panel strip links in too often. There we go. So next up, we are covering visualizing your work. So super excited about this presentation. Seth on our team is actually going to be helping out with this. And he's going to be joined by an organization who's doing really awesome trainings with focused on opposing eviction in Cleveland. So super excited about that. So you can join that training there. And then I'll actually be covering some advanced reporting on the SQL mirror. So SQL mirror advanced reporting will be me next. So if you do want to dig into the technical side, how the data is structured, how you can pull data out, use business intelligence software to really dig in, that'll be the training for you. So looking forward to y'all joining us, and thank you all again. Really appreciate all the great questions in the chat. Have a good one.